The House bill that's been put forward is Obamacare Light. It won't work.
The Republican health care plan is getting hammered by Republicans.
We've got to do better.
Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn gives up on his dream of running for governor.
Aren't you guys happy you're not going to have to schlep all over the state with me?
And in our humor segment, we call out both sides in my annual State of the Show address.
I'd like to read a quote from a special guest in our gallery tonight. Help me. The couple next to me won't stop talking about your show, and it's boring me out of my mind.
This is Money, Power, and Politics.
Well, we'll start with President Trump selling the House plan to replace Obamacare. You have a growing number of Republicans who just are not buying it. You have the conservative Republicans ripping this plan for giving too much, moderate Republicans ripping it for taking too much. And the part that rolls back the Medicaid expansion could be the deal breaker.
And we will keep our promise to not pull the rug out from anyone, including those on Medicaid.
But in 3 years, the plan would start reeling in federal money for Medicaid to only pay for people who already have it. And that does not line up with what the president promised on 60 Minutes.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say.
Universal health care.
I am going to take care of everybody.
But Democrats and some Republicans claim the new plan would leave millions of people uninsured, despite the president's promise of universal health care.
The uninsured person
Right.
is going to be taken care of.
They're going to be
How?
taken care of.
How?
I would make a deal with existing hospitals to take care of people. And you know what? This is probably...
Make a deal. Who pays for it?
The government's going to pay for it.
Remember, Republicans only have a 4-seat majority in the Senate, and Republicans Rob Portman, Shelley Moore Capito, Cory Gardner, and Lisa Murkowski represent states that expanded Medicaid under Obamacare, and they all want to keep it and will oppose plans to restrict it. At the same time, other Republicans are ripping the plan for not changing enough.
The House bill that's been put forward is Obamacare Light. It won't work. Premiums and prices will continue to spiral out of control.
The House plan would give people tax credits to buy insurance instead of subsidies, and conservatives say that won't fly.
You know, sets a new entitlement and keeps some taxes, doesn't repeal all of Obamacare. We've got to do better.
It creates a new entitlement program, and I've already heard from some constituents upset about you're creating another entitlement program. We're calling it tax credits that we actually send people checks. And I guess it's another way to do the subsidy.
And as Republicans fight over the tax credits in Medicaid, Democrats are doing everything they can to keep what we have.
If the final product out of the House looks anything like this draft, the Senate should consider it a moral duty to reject it.
Well, the president says he's open to negotiations, and with that, you have the conservatives on one side demanding changes, then on the other, moderates demanding changes. And then at the same time, you have a lot of governors, including Governor Scott, who flew to Washington to share his thoughts as well. And as he did that, the men and women who want to succeed Scott are making their move here in Florida.
Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum kicked off the race for Florida governor. He was the first candidate and first Democrat to announce.
I plan to be that governor. I plan to be your champion.
Then 38-year-old Orlando businessman Chris King said he'll run as a Democrat. Meanwhile, former Congresswoman Gwen Graham, Bob Graham's daughter, has pretty much said count her in.
I have not been shy about sharing that I really look forward to the opportunity to run for governor.
And then there's millionaire attorney John Morgan. He's already a household name across much of the state, and he's eyeing the race for governor as a Democrat.
I don't think I have to do anything this year. The rest of these people have got to scramble to get money for name ID and to look for, because they've been thinking about it their whole lives.
Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn has been thinking about it for a very long time.
Aren't you guys happy you're not going to have to schlep all over the state with me?
But he just decided to take a pass.
As much as I would have enjoyed having you on the road with me for the next 18 months, I'm going to be a dad, and I'm going to be the greatest mayor that I possibly can.
Okay, well, please welcome Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn. Thank you for joining us.
Sure, Craig.
So you've talked about running for governor for years, and now the opportunity to present yourself, and you decide not to do it. Tell me why.
I did. Well, for me, it was very simple. It was family first, and the fact that I have a job that I love. I mean, I love being the mayor of Tampa. Something I trained for, something I aspired to for a long time. We have a big agenda with a lot to get done. And so when I weighed all of that, it just didn't make sense for me right now to look at it. I'm perfectly happy doing what I'm doing. I do think the state needs regime change, but I'm sure that there'll be lots of other folks who will articulate that message.
Good for you, family first. But there's a lot of politicians. President Obama comes to mind, the former president who had daughters roughly your age when he ran for president, a much bigger undertaking. He showed you can
He did,
you can
but
do
his
it.
were much younger. Mine now, my oldest one is 15. These next 2 years when I would basically be gone are probably the last 2 years that I'll have with her before she leaves the nest, if you will. And I don't want to miss those. I don't want to miss those milestones as she prepares for college and prepares to leave. And so for me, you know, when I weighed all of that, knowing full well that I could have been competitive, that I could have governed, that Tampa's got a great story to tell in the biggest media market in the state of Florida, I decided to come down on the side of my family.
Could have been competitive. Did you weigh the competition in your calculus? Who else may be running? Did that play a factor in this? John Morgan?
No, not really. I mean, you
Levine,
know,
any of those guys play a factor?
No. I mean, they're all factors. But you don't do this because of the competition. You do this because you believe you can make a difference, that you believe your message is going to resonate, that you believe you have a story to tell that's going to reverberate out there. I thought I had all of that. You know, the competition is just part of the game. Now, for me, I've lost races before, so I don't fear losing. You know, I know it doesn't kill you. It was more about, do I want to give up these last 2 years with grace? Do I want to give up a job that I love with a full agenda that won't get done if I'm not here to do it? And I came down on the side of, look, you know, I'd rather finish Tampa's next chapter and then worry about mine down the road.
As a Democrat, you're comparatively centrist, if not conservative, fair to say. That would have worked against you in a statewide primary, would it not, among primary voters who tend to be far more progressive?
Sure, it definitely would have. You know, the Democratic Party, particularly primary voters, tend to be far more liberal. You know, I am not, you know, for some people, their cup of tea. But I think my record and the renaissance of Tampa and the story that we could have told about this city and what we've done, I think could have translated and could have surpassed, you know, sort of the partisanship. The other part of that equation, Craig, is if I had gotten to the general election, I think I would have been far more competitive because I have a history of reaching across the aisle. I am not scary to Republicans because I am a pro-business, pro-growth, pro-job creating kind of mayor. And so I was looking forward to that debate.
Mayor, thank you for your time.
You bet, Craig. Yeah.
Now, coming up, I'll deliver our annual State of the Show address to call out politicians on both sides of the aisle, there we go, and have some fun at their expense. Well, President Trump once said he could shoot someone and not lose any voters. And yeah, both sides are dug in, and both sides think that our government is a joke. And so we will mock a political system that drives so many people mad. Which brings us now to our annual State of the Show address.
Mr. Speaker, the President of Money, Power, and Politics, Craig Patrick.
Absolutely. So good to see you. We're going to make the show great again. We're going to make it great again. Good to see you. I could go out and shoot somebody and not lose any viewers. Oh, it is so good. Oh, so good to see you.
Tonight we bring together the brightest minds in our government. If that's not you, then just quietly excuse yourself and head out the door before we play a clip of something you may regret.
I hope you were as much fun on that dais as you were on your couch.
Oh, my Lord.
I'd like to read a quote from a special guest in our gallery tonight. Help me. The couple next to me won't stop talking about your show, and it's boring me out of my mind. Well, tonight, I promise, with the new administration in Washington, we will never be bored again. Once again, I placed a yellow note in each of your coat pockets. It will reveal what we have planned for the rest of the year. In short, the state of our show is strong, especially with all the material we get every day from the White House.
He's been very clear that it is extreme vetting.
Extreme vetting.
Calling for tougher vetting individuals from travelers from 7 nations is not extreme.
The ban.
It's not a travel ban.
This is a ban.
That's not a ban.
This is not a travel ban. This is a temporary pause.
We're going to have a very, very strict ban.
Because when we use words like travel ban, that misrepresents what it is.
We'll continue to call out the double talk in Washington with our doubles here at home.
Hasn't they called it a ban?
No, they call it a pause. No, extreme vetting.
No, it's not extreme.
It's not a ban.
Oh, hold on. Now we're contradicting one another. We are. Yeah, we are.
It's not a ban.
And we'll mock and call out politicians on both sides of the aisle because you both deserve it. And we'll continue to mix serious political coverage with humor from here to Bedford Falls.
My mouth's bleeding. My mouth's bleeding. My mouth's bleeding. What do you know about that? Merry Christmas, Mr. Trump.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Merry Christmas, you wonderful old Mr. De Niro.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
And so in closing, in the spirit of Ted Cruz and his amateur impressions.
Mike Lee, I am your father.
Mitch, we're not gonna do it. We're gonna follow the Constitution, I'm telling you.
Let me assert my firm belief. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Something about a shining city on a hill. Good night, God bless you, and God bless America.
Well, there you have it. Coming up, we're going to shift gears to the state of our state. We're going to take a serious look now at the debate over guns on college campus. Well, state lawmakers could allow people to bring guns into airport terminals and government meetings and public college campuses. Their plan, effectively, would allow people with concealed weapons licenses to carry guns into places where they are currently banned. Marissa Lynn has both sides.
Florida lawmakers could soon pull the trigger on bills allowing guns in more public places. Sarasota Senator Greg Steube is behind 10 bills to allow Florida's 1.7 million concealed permit holders to carry firearms into places like airports and college campuses.
Very important to me that people have the ability to defend themselves, and that's why I keep pushing bills like this.
Last year, former Senator Greg Evers tried to pass legislation saying gun-free zones are an easy target for those who want to cause harm. But on campus at USF, some students say guns would create an unfit learning environment.
I think that would introduce a kind of a wild card that I don't think is necessary or would be productive to the university environment.
They should be a place where you can feel like you can just go to class and not have to worry about violence.
Other students think it could be a good idea as long as the university is made aware of who's carrying the guns.
Maybe if we have the proper papers in order to do so, for every single student.
The argument to allow guns is self-defense. Supporters point to last year's Pulse nightclub attack where 49 people were shot dead. Then in January, 5 people lost their lives in a shooting at the Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International Airport.
I support it all until someone can show me one stinking fact, statistic, that says this is worse than the current situation. I absolutely am supportive of it. Why don't we just say, in certain situations, let's try it?
So the Senate Judiciary Committee is the first one to see these types of gun bills, and it's made up of 5 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and one of those Republicans is Senator Antieri Flores. She is the one that could be the decisive vote when it comes to a bill like this and any future legislation.
And where does she line up?
She was for that one that would allow guns into courtrooms up to the security checkpoint. But any other legislation, the one that Steube has presented, she's totally against.
Meanwhile, you have some lawmakers who also want to require law enforcement to wear body cameras. Where does this stand?
Well, it's up to each particular agency if they want to use the body cameras. But up in Tallahassee, they want to force officers who make routine traffic stops to use them. And so we stopped by the Pasco County Sheriff's Office to talk with Sheriff Chris Nocco about this.
There was many deputies around the street that were saying they want to be protected.
For the past 2 years, deputies in Pasco County have worn body cameras full time. But not every police department or sheriff's office across Tampa Bay has them. Now a pair of Democratic lawmakers want to change that. They want to require them for all officers who make routine traffic stops.
The biggest thing that comes out of those traffic stops are complaints. Once they hear we have a body on camera, they actually say, well, never mind, I don't want to follow through on this complaint.
Everybody do not show us police officers no more.
And we have to stop that.
Senator Daphne Campbell supports body cameras for a different reason.
This is why this bill is so important, just for us to get back the trust between police officers and communities.
Clearwater police don't wear body cameras, but Chief Daniel Slaughter says he doesn't feel they will build trust either. While Nacco supports body cameras for his own force, he says he doesn't believe it should be mandated.
You have to believe in what you're doing, and if it's forced upon any agency to get the body-worn camera, it's going to be a complete failure.
Lawmakers introducing the bill say there's no downside for the public or police.
This provides an extra layer of protection for our public safety officers and for us as citizens.
Tampa police are still testing them out, but say the experience has been positive so far. But body cameras are not cheap. The deal Sheriff Nacco got in Pasco County cost $1.9 million over 5 years.
It has been one of the best investments we've ever made.
For Money, Power, and Politics, I'm Marissa Lynn.
Now please check out our YouTube channel for a closer look at this issue and other hot debates in the legislature. Search for Craig Patrick's Money, Power, Politics and click subscribe. You'll also find our investigations and perspective on local, state, and national government. Okay, let's bring in political strategist Adam Goodman. We've covered a lot of ground, have a lot of ground yet to cover. Let's start with the plans to repeal Obamacare. You have so many conservative Republican forces working against the Republican plan on the table. What are the chances this will pass?
Something will pass. It is a campaign promise that must have a remedy for Republicans to be able to look voters in their eyes.
I'm assuming you don't mean this. This isn't going to fly.
I think there's still a little ways to go. Maybe one of the things that Republicans might do differently if they were to start again was to extend the timetable just a little bit to make sure that when they got to the table, they had what was critical mass and they had what could, cure the well-documented travails of Obamacare. And they clearly aren't quite there, and they're having to get there in a hurry. You hear about all-night sessions, it's almost like they're back in college.
Will they get there this year?
I think they need to get there this year. This isn't an option for Republicans, and frankly, it's not an option for Americans who are concerned about being kind of left in the lurch here as we move from what looks like one massive healthcare system to quite a different one.
Doesn't help when other issues pull focus, like the president saying that the former president wiretapped his phones. Where's that going?
Well, I don't think that will go down as a high moment in the Trump presidency. I mean, on the one hand, it's refreshing, Craig, that you have a president that kind of tells it like it is 24/7. On the other hand, there are times when I think more decorum and grounding might be called for. What's problematic, though, is think of the agenda that the president has before us. He has a major infrastructure bill, major health reform bill, major immigration reform bill, tax and regulatory reform, and to get all those moving and done. And this is a get it done now president. He doesn't need distractions. He doesn't need this kind of sidetrack that for a week seems to dominate the conversation as opposed to what we need as a country to move forward.
Adam Goodman, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, here we have an update now from Danny Triplett. He's our finder of lost treasure. He sets up estate sales, and last week we showed you how he found Jimmy Carter's lost family photo albums in a home in Dade City. Well, he returned them earlier this week, and here he is with former President Jimmy Carter. Jimmy and Rosalind Carter invited the Triplett family into their home in Georgia and thanked them for finding their family albums. Okay, coming up, our consumer expert, Sir Bonnie Banerjee, explains why some companies, big ones, are taking controversial political positions and how it can affect their bottom lines. I'm joining you now from the messiest desk in the newsroom, Sir Bonnie Banerjee. Seriously, I mean, people won't park here. They think it's a dumpster.
This is just so people don't sit down and talk. No, I'm just kidding. This is organized confusion.
Journalists at work here. And I bring this up, not to pick, but because you do a lot of different things, do an awful lot of reading. We came across a study that struck my interest.
An article kind of floated to the top of the mayhem here, and it was from Yahoo Finance. And it was really interesting because it's talking about how consumerism, how what we buy, where we shop, is getting more and more closely linked to political leanings. In particular, this came to the surface after President Trump and the measure that he signed saying that he wanted a temporary ban on immigrants coming in from certain countries.
And then Facebook shoots back saying, no, we're against this. Then you have Uber, you have other companies weighing in as well.
Exactly. So it's not
Starbucks.
just, it's not just, you would expect different political groups to come out and you'd have your activists protesting. But now one of the first to come up, like you said, and say something was Facebook's CEO.
Now, how is that good business for a company like Facebook or any company in such a divided nation to run the risk of offending basically half of their customers?
It's so interesting, and because for every way they offend, they gain. So let's start with the Facebook example. Zuckerberg actually put a statement out. He said it would make all Americans less safe. So he made the decision to go out there and say that. And then you've got the backlash. Perfect example is Nordstrom's. They stopped selling Ivanka's line, right? So a lot of people were happy. They said, okay, great. There was this whole movement. It's a grab your wallet boycott list. There's a movement that says don't buy anything that's related to Trump. But then there was the backlash of, oh, they said that it was just because sales were doing poorly. But then they said, no, it's because you don't support Trump. So we're going to not shop here.
I want to thank you for your time, and for the record state that it was Urbani's idea to say she had a messy desk, not mine. But thank you so much for joining us. And
I just don't have time to clean it, but I always have time to talk.
That's right. We'll see you again next week. That's our show. Good night, everybody. We'll see you soon.